going back to the CBC on this really nice train, the GO Transit trains. They're quite cool. Another day of trying to out a certain individual as a neo-Nazi. So here I am again, and that's the CBC behind me, and I'm in the park next to the CBC. I decided to return. I've been really bothered by the CBC's response to my protest a few days ago. Asking me to, for example, to come here to the park and not to protest in front of the building, even on public property, which anyone is allowed to do. That's just not acceptable. And also they asked me to limit my protest to 40 minutes, which is also totally unacceptable. The CBC does not impose time limits on expressions of democracy. By saying such a thing to me or any other Canadian citizen, it's just an act of arrogant, of unbelievable arrogance. That they would have the arrogance to do that is really, really, really astonishing and sad, I think. And also, finally, something I failed to mention the last time I was making a video, the guy who came out to shoo me away when I inadvertently crossed the line on the private property by sitting on a bench. He said that they were worried about the security of the building. In other words, he was positioning me as being a danger to the occupants of the building. I don't know what he thought I was going to do, maybe attack someone with my Bristol board sign. But again, this is also completely unacceptable, and I would say unforgivable, and the bond between me and the CBC is now broken. So when I was here before, I just want to be clear that I stayed well away from the building and stayed well away from anyone entering or leaving the building. I did communicate with people who I figured were journalists, but asking them when will the CBC investigate Jordan Peterson's ties to neo-Nazism, when will the CBC inform the Canadian public about Jordan Peterson's Nazi identity, and they didn't like these questions at all, as I've said. So these questions were met by scowls and mask-like expressions. And when I asked one person if he worked for the CBC, he became rude and said, it's none of your business, And this is all very perplexing and very unfortunate. And I really wonder why I'm getting this response. So I have sent I think it was the CEO and I believe 4 other well-known reporters a 57-page document called Jordan Peterson and Neo-Nazism, What You Need to Know, explaining essentially what he does, and also including quotes of some of the fawning remarks he's made about Adolf Hitler and other Nazis, for example, Adolf Eichmann and Wilhelm Trapp. And I didn't get a response there either. Not a thanks, we'll take a look or something. Just silence as usual. Apparently, this story is not newsworthy. That Canada's most famous public intellectual ever and professor at University of Toronto, who's published by Penguin, who's internationally renowned, is a neo-Nazi. It's just not a news story. According to the people who work at the CBC. It's quite shocking, actually. I really have to wonder why this response. So, I don't know. Again, to restate, they're obviously, I really sense that they're afraid of something. And I wonder what it is. And I wonder if it's that they're afraid of the alt-right mob, 2 of whom I met yesterday. They exist. Like, for example, Peterson's fans, the thuggish men who, for example, threatened Channel 4 News in Britain after Jordan Peterson did an interview with Kathy Newman. She got all kinds of threats, I believe, including death threats, if I recall correctly. And Peterson responded to this, by saying, well, if I really wanted my internet trolls to give Channel 4 News a hard time, there'd be nothing left but broken glass. That's quite a thing to say. And I really wonder if the CBC is worried that if they out Peterson as a Nazi, that they'll get a different kind of protester here, looking for them and screaming at them at the top of their lungs that they are the Nazis or whatever. This is the new refrain from the Canadian far right, that the CBC is somehow some communist or Nazi organization or something like this. So I wonder if it has to do with that, if they're afraid to tell the public because they don't want to jeopardize themselves. Now, that's a reasonable fear, I think, in light of the occupation we recently saw of Ottawa, where Ottawa was besieged by a far-right movement that hoped to overthrow. It was an attempted coup. That he participated in this coup by coaching the participants in an illegal occupation as though some kind of paramilitary self-help guru. This also hasn't been reported by the CBC. They don't seem to be interested in reporting anything he does. For example, they've never mentioned that he when he counsels his followers on suicide, he lists the benefits of suicide. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. He's not telling you to kill yourself. Oh, goodness, no. He's just listing its benefits again and again and again. And then at the end, then he'll say, but you shouldn't do that. So to leave himself an out. But if you're vulnerable or you have psychological issues, someone listing the benefits of suicide might just be enough to push you over the edge. Again, unreported by the CBC. So here we see a real lack of moral conviction, journalistic integrity, decency, and so on. But according to them, I'm the problem. and maybe anyone who asks questions about Jordan Peterson and Nazism would be the problem. Perhaps, I don't know. Obviously, something is seriously wrong here. Clearly, there is corruption. And so I'm going to ask you to email me at teparfit@gmail.com, and I will send you some information on Jordan Peterson, like 45 quotes of him praising Adolf Hitler, defending Adolf Hitler, identifying with Adolf Hitler, sympathizing with Adolf Hitler, and downplaying Hitler's malevolence, and also gushing and praising about the Nazis and identifying as a Nazi, practically admitting that he's a Nazi in at least 2 instances. You're not gonna get this information from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They're not going to cover this story, and so I think it's up to me and the public to spread the word, so Canadians understand that there is a massive neo-Nazi cult headquartered right here in Toronto, and it's headquartered in out of Jordan Peterson's house. With the internet, you can have a cult right in your own office space, and that's exactly what he's doing. So please do send me an email, and I'll send you that information. Canadians should be under no illusions after what happened in Ottawa. That event didn't surprise me at all. That's the natural culmination of what's been happening over the past 5 years, the rise of fascism. Again, mostly unreported by the CBC, the CTV, Global News, the National Post. The National Post is a supporter of this fascist movement, I should say. The Toronto Star's also been completely out to lunch, and the Globe and Mail, too, is nowhere to be seen. So all the adults in the room have left, essentially. So I would also ask journalists to contact me, especially in other countries, because it seems the Canadian, when it comes to at least reporting on the rising tide of fascism and the existence of neo-Nazism in Canada, which is alive and well, the Canadian media is just not up to the task. So you can contact me too, and I'll provide you with heaps of information. So now I'm going to go stand on the sidewalk in front of the CBC building with my sign and see what happens. So I won't go anywhere near the property, and I won't bother anybody. But I will ask questions if I see someone who I think is a journalist.